Hello and welcome to Where Are They Now with Mario Toneguzzi on Megapix Media. Joining me today is Jodi Evans, a partner with Deloitte Consulting in Vancouver, also a former University of Dinosaur basketball player and national team member. Thanks for joining us today, Jodi.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Well, let me just start by asking you, about your career right now and what you do with Deloitte.
So I'm a partner in our consulting practice. I do projects, basically, a lot of transformation projects for clients, helping clients on everything from, a business case analysis right through to implementation on that journey. So everything from, large scale finance transformations, human resources transformations, and generally strategic shifts that companies are looking to make.
Now, when you're looking at the current climate, obviously with the pandemic, how has that impacted what you do?
Yeah, it's been very interesting. I look back to the spring when this all hit, and it was a pretty tough time. I mean, we had clients that canceled projects. We had other clients who put things in pause, just not knowing, where things were going. And then the work that we do in social services and health was just escalating on fire. Like things like digital. We do a lot in digital transformations, digital journeys, and there's a lot of kind of, I would say, just conservative approach to that, particularly in health and social services. And, projects that would have taken 2 or 3 years to even get approval got approved almost overnight. So that had crazy busy in some areas and then really quiet in other areas. And now I think we're finding we're very busy. I think everybody's seeing a light at the end of the tunnel with a vaccine coming down. And even before that, I think companies were getting into that mindset of, we know this is a short-term situation, and the whole technology enabled transformation that's kind of the future anyway. So in some ways, we're far busier now than our scenario modeling, even 6 months ago or even 3 months ago might have said we would be.
Okay. Now, just going back in time, Jodi, you were a Rhodes Scholar and you attended Oxford University. What did you take there, and why did you take that?
It's interesting. I did a PhD in management studies there. I had a focus on environmental management. It was, the reason was the extreme passion for the environment and, wanting to have a better understanding of basically how companies go green, how organizations go green. So there was a strategy and organization development sort of, I would say, theory to what I did. But at the time when I graduated, it was just not a space of a lot of job opportunities. I took a little bit of a different path into the consulting world and largely stayed in that world now, and love what I do, and just helping different companies and organizations be successful was fun for us.
Okay, let's talk basketball.
Yeah.
You had a long storied career in basketball. Let's start from the beginning. Was that your favorite sport when you first grew up, or?
Oh, it's interesting when I look at sport today and how young kids need to choose their sport to, if they really want to perform at the elite level. So for me, I was always that kid who was on the field. It didn't matter. Basketball, soccer, football, baseball, you name it. I just love sport. I would say I became a soccer and basketball fanatic as it kind of narrowed into those sports. And then probably, 14, 15 chose basketball. And that's when provincial teams kicked in and junior national teams started to kick in. But, when I look at nowadays, kids are choosing their sport at, 7, 8, 9 years old. It's a very, even before that in some ways.
Why did you take basketball? What was the appeal?
Oh, you know what? I always say, so here's my theory on sport. I look at athletes like rowers, distance runners, those swimmers. In my mind, those are pain sports. That is just push your body until it feels like it's going to explode and then push it harder.
Yeah.
Whereas when I look at something like, basketball, soccer, those are games. You're chasing a ball. Hockey, you're chasing a puck. You don't really realize that you're pushing your body to the extreme. So it's about, the fun, the game, and then the whole team sport dynamic. To me, that is such a rewarding part of just playing team sports. And something that I would say unexpectedly has really carried me through my career and provided loads of value that at the time, the camaraderie you get, what you learn from your teammates, how you learn to play like in different roles, whatever role makes sense for the team. Things that, that I didn't realize would be so beneficial like later in life.
Yeah. So you went to EP Scarlet, right?
I did.
Okay. How did you guys do in high school, by the way?
Oh, we were a powerhouse. No, seriously, we really were. One of my best friends, who, since literally about grade 3, also we played at Scarlet together. She went on to play provincial teams at University of Calgary as well. And we had a very good team, people who went on to play college and university, and we had great coaches. And it was Scarlet was a really, really strong sports school at that time, both academic and sport, I'll say, but definitely strong on the sports side.
So I take it, was there no, it was a pretty easy decision to go to U of C then?
It's really, it's a great question. And I remember at the time looking at a few different schools. The US was always sort of an option as well, not as well recruited into Canada at the time, which I think in hindsight worked out very well for me. Staying at the University of Calgary, fantastic school, like academically. I mean, I did my a commerce degree. Haskayne School of Business, great school, and then of course the basketball team. And when I went there, my first year, like we did well, but we got some great athletes in there, and we had a really good run. And it was a team that mostly Calgary and definitely Alberta, student athletes, and we went on to do some fantastic things.
Well, let me talk a little bit about those fantastic things. And correct me if I'm wrong in my research, but 4 consecutive Canada West Championships, 1989 National Championship, unbeaten year. Yeah. This is the one that gets me, 69 straight games unbeaten.
Yeah.
That seems incredible to me.
Yeah, and it really was. And the unfortunate thing is the 70th game was the national that we lost, which we never should have lost. That's one of those memories that will stick in me like for the rest of time. But yeah, we had such a strong team, and such a, it really was a team. We had great individual players, but just the way we all played together and leveraged each other's strengths was fantastic. We'd been together for a long time. And yeah, we did things that, people didn't think a University of Calgary team could do. And that was also, we played against some strong US schools in that time. Yeah. A lot bigger intake schools like University of Toronto that was strong, and others. So yeah, we had those were very fond years for me. And just really, the other great thing about that is when all those good athletes, you're competing against each other in practice every day. And our second 5 would have been a starting 5 on many other universities across the country. So we had very competitive, very intense practices, which again, just you have people pushing you to be better every day.
Yeah. Now, when you look back at during that sports career, what is it about sports do you think you learned that helped you in life and helped you obviously in what you're doing today?
Yeah, and it's interesting, Mario, that question. One of the big things that a lot of people don't recognize is how difficult it can be for a lot of our Olympic athletes to transition into the real world. Yeah. So someone who's kind of come through that. I retired after 96, and I had the good fortune, after the 96 Olympics, I had the fortune of, I was still going to university. So I finished my PhD the following year, and I got a job quite right after that, in a space that I was very interested in. But a lot of athletes, you think about it, you finish your undergraduate degree, a lot of athletes, it's a full-time job. They're not also going to school. And then you have your 5 years later, your 7 years later, your 10 years later from your graduate degree, and you're looking for a job. And that's a really difficult transition. And you've been a star, you've been fully focused on your sport, you're kind of a celebrity in some way, shape, or form. And then all of a sudden you're in a very different situation. And I remember I felt that way a little bit when I was, even though I had a pretty easy transition. I remember when I was sort of applying for jobs and getting sort of coaching around, what is your experience? You've been on a team, what you've learned. And I'm like, are employers really going to going to value that. And, you know, I would say I got a little bit lucky. There was a partner at Deloitte who I think saw potential there. But it's one of those things, I see it so much now in hindsight, right? Now that I've been working for as long as I have, and I look at, you know, when we hire people and the types of skills that they bring, I look at the comments around just team oriented. Like you're willing to do whatever it takes. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you get this role, that role, it's whatever it takes to be successful, that attitude. Yeah. And I think just that inner drive, like I say, like, you know, the general level of intelligence, right? It's like, but a lot of it is more about the how. It's about the motivation. It's about the drive. It's about how you work with people, how you collaborate, kind of your mentality around team. And those are things that I am really keen. We just recently hired in my team a field hockey player who had a bit of a tough transition, and just the way she's showing up, and, you know, she's a little older. That's the other thing. You're kind of older than everybody else as your peer when you join, just because you know, you got to get up to speed. You need to learn sort of the ropes to move forward. So she's definitely a little bit older than her peers, but her acceleration path is just sky's the limit. So I'm a huge fan, and I would say when I came out myself, I wouldn't necessarily seen the value in athletics that I see now.
Okay, super. And one last thing to talk about is, you know, a member of the national team. Was it 9 years?
Yeah.
And how many Olympics did you play in?
Just 96. 92, we were 8 teams qualify, and we were the 9th team. So unfortunately, so just the 96 Olympics, yeah.
Okay. What was the experience like for you to be on the national team? What was that like?
You know, it was amazing. And I look back too, right? Like a lot of that, or not a lot of, but some of that time was before the wall came down, and Eastern Europe invested a lot in their sport, their sporting teams. So even just some of the, you know, the sport experience was obviously amazing, but I would say it's kind of more the life experiences that you get through those, like just seeing what it's like in other countries, how they operate, you know, what's important. Like, it's just like, I can't imagine, like, you know, what I learned through those late night conversations with sitting at a table with an interpreter in Hungary, or, you know, I just, yeah. And then the sport and the being able to compete at an elite level, and, you know, seeing so many other countries, and yeah, just like, I feel incredibly fortunate to have had that opportunity.
Okay, super. Well, thanks very much, Jodi, for joining us today.
Thanks, Mario. Appreciate the time. Take care.
Okay. That was Jodi Evans, who is a partner with Deloitte Consulting in Vancouver, a former University of Calgary Dinosaur basketball player, national team player, and Olympic team player as well. This has been Where Are They Now with Mario Toneguzzi on Megapix Media. Thanks for joining us today.